Hello everyone, and a huge welcome to all the ninth grade students at St. Paul American School Clark. We are jumping right into our explainer today, which is G9, Biology, Unit 06, Lesson 02, Seedless Vascular Plants and Vascular Seed Plants. I'm absolutely thrilled to be your guide as we unlock some of the most fascinating biological engineering secrets in the natural world.
To kick things off, I want you to think about this question. How do redwood trees in Yosemite grow so amazingly tall? I mean, we are talking about massive, towering giants, with some of them literally reaching hundreds of feet into the sky. How in the world can a plant possibly pull heavy liquid water from the ground all the way up to those towering canopies, totally fighting against the immense force of gravity? It's a genuine mystery when you're standing at the base of one looking up.
Well, the secret to their massive success really comes down to a single word: tracheophytes. Tracheophytes are vascular plants, and if we break that down, the word literally translates to tube plants. These guys possess highly specialized internal tissues designed specifically to transport fluid. That internal tube-like plumbing system is the absolute secret behind their massive size and really their incredible evolutionary success all across terrestrial ecosystems.
So here's our roadmap for today's explainer. We'll start with our explainer objectives, then move right into plant structure and function. From there, we'll cover seedless vascular plants, followed by vascular seed plants. Then we'll do a quick misconceptions and knowledge check, and finally, wrap the whole thing up with a core concepts recap.
Starting off with Section 1, our explainer objectives. Today, we are going to clearly break down the structure, the function, and the classification of vascular plants.
To do that, I want you to kind of imagine this lesson as an architectural tour. We're going to examine a plant as if it were a finely engineered building. We'll be focusing entirely on the macroscopic plant organs. You know, the major structural components you can actually see and interact with, without getting bogged down in all the microscopic cell biology. Let's look at the grand design.
And that brings us to Section 2, plant structure and function. Like any good architectural tour, we have to start our analysis from the ground up. Because every great building needs a rock-solid foundation, right? For plants, that foundation is the root system. Now, there are three main types of roots we really need to know. First up is the taproot. This is a large, central root that acts like a huge anchor and stores sugars. Think of a giant carrot or a mighty oak tree. Next is the fibrous root system. This one's highly branched, which keeps the plant anchored while tightly holding the topsoil in place. You see this in things like grasses and onions. And finally, we have adventitious roots. These actually grow above ground to provide some really unique structural support, like you'd see in corn or beautiful orchids. Basically, these roots are the ultimate anchors and resource gatherers.
Now, once those roots gather up the resources, they need to travel. Plants use two distinct vascular tissues for this internal plumbing. First is the xylem. Xylem transports water and dissolved minerals straight up from the roots. It consists of dead cells that form stiff tubes reinforced with a super tough substance called lignin. On the flip side, we have the phloem. Phloem transports food and sugars down from the leaves where they're made, distributing all that good stuff to the rest of the plant. And unlike xylem, phloem actually consists of living cells.
So let's apply this back to our massive redwood tree model. How exactly does that water get 300 feet into the air? Well, step 1, the roots absorb water from the soil far below the ground. Step 2, that water travels up those lignin-reinforced xylem tubes, fighting gravity every single inch of the way. And step 3, the water finally reaches the leaves at the very top of the tree canopy. It is a highly efficient, continuous elevator of hydration.
The crucial point here is summarized perfectly by this quote right from our source material. Because of lignin, stems are stiff, so plants can grow high above the ground where they can get more light and air. Listen, lignin is an absolute game changer. Without this stiff structural support lining those xylem tubes, plants would literally just flop over. Lignin is what directly enabled the evolutionary brilliance of growing vertically up into the air. Moving all the way to the top of our building, we find the solar panels, the leaves. Leaves are essentially the world's most important manufacturers of food. They have a waxy cuticle on the outside to prevent them from drying out in the sun. Inside, they contain mesophyll tissue packed with chloroplasts for photosynthesis, grabbing the sun's energy. And crucially, they have stomata. These are tiny openings that manage gas exchange, pulling carbon dioxide in and pushing oxygen out.
All right, let's move on to Section 3, seedless vascular plants. We're going to look at the very earliest evolutionary leap of these structural blueprints. This brilliantly illustrates what happened when plants first developed vascular tissue. Seedless vascular plants like ferns and club mosses were the real pioneers here. They evolved true roots, stems, and leaves precisely because they possessed that xylem and phloem plumbing. Now, their life cycle is dominated by the diploid sporophyte generation, but as the name totally gives away, they reproduce using spores instead of seeds. Yet even without seeds, having that internal plumbing gave them a massive evolutionary edge, letting them completely dominate early terrestrial ecosystems.
Which naturally leads us right into Section 4, Vascular Seed Plants. Here, we explore how plants developed some incredible blueprints for the future. Evolution definitely didn't stop at spores. Plants developed seeds, which is incredible because a seed permits an embryo to survive unfavorable conditions over super long periods of time. We have two main types of seed plants here. First, gymnosperms. They produce their seeds in cones. Think of pine trees, cedars, and yep, our towering redwoods. Then, we have the angiosperms. These are the flowering plants. They produce seeds enclosed in flowers and fruits, like roses, daisies, and even grasses. Angiosperms evolved later and used their flowers to brilliantly promote pollination.
To really understand angiosperms, we have to look at how they engineer reproduction using modified leaves. There are four main parts of a flower. The sepals are the outermost part. Their job is to protect the developing flower bud before it opens. Then the petals. They are usually brightly colored to attract pollinators like bees or birds. Next, we have the stamens, which are the male reproductive parts containing the pollen grains. And finally, right in the center, we have the carpels, the female reproductive parts containing the ovaries. It's just a perfectly engineered system for passing on genetic blueprints.
Okay, 9th graders, time for Section 5, Misconceptions and Knowledge Check. I want you to actively engage with the material we just went over. Let's see what you remember. Here is a slightly tricky naming misconception straight from our source text. Based on the name alone, are club mosses actually a type of moss? Take a quick second to think about what we just learned regarding their structure and their plumbing. If you said no, you are spot on. Despite the confusing name, club mosses have true roots, stems, and leaves. And because they have those three distinct organs and that internal plumbing, they are officially seedless vascular plants. Simple mosses completely lack those specialized structures. So don't let the name fool you.
Let's try one more quick review question. Thinking back to our leaf, solar panels, which leaf structure acts as an opening that permits gases to actually enter and leave the plant? If you said stomata, you absolutely nailed it. Stoma are the tiny pores on the leaf surface formed by two specialized guard cells. They basically act like little microscopic doors, tightly regulating the flow of carbon dioxide and oxygen, making sure the leaf has exactly what it needs to manufacture food.
Excellent work on that. Let's move into our final section, Section 6, the Core Concepts Recap. We're going to tie all of these architectural blueprints together in a tight, clear summary. All right, here are the absolute must-know takeaways from today's explainer. First, tracheophytes are plants with vascular tissue. Always remember the two main types. Xylem pulls water up, and phloem pushes food down. Second, the highly engineered plant body fundamentally relies on roots for its foundation, stems for framing and support, and leaves for solar energy. Third, early seedless vascular plants like our ferns and club mosses reproduce via spores. And finally, vascular seed plants represent the next massive step in evolution, splitting into cone-bearing gymnosperms and flower-bearing angiosperms. I want to leave you all with a provocative thought to ponder as we wrap up. Given how incredibly highly engineered and successful these vascular plants are, from those massive redwood taproots to the most intricate angiosperm flowers, how might their internal plumbing and vascular structures continue to adapt to changing environmental conditions and climates in the future? It's a fascinating question for any budding biologist to think about. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer today. Keep wondering and keep exploring.